So how's isolation treating everybody?
Oh man, it's been interesting.
Yeah, what's it
It's
been
good.
like as a store owner?
What's it been like? Stressful, that's for sure. Trying to figure everything out, and with the government and everything, everything's not cut and dry and very clear. Like they're adapting as much as we are, so you don't get like I don't know, a clear outline of what you're supposed to be doing right now as a small business, other than are you essential or not.
Right.
Uh, And so are pipe shops, head shops essential or no?
At first, they weren't. All they were doing was the cannabis shops. They were saying obviously they're essential to people, which is pretty funny because years ago it wouldn't be, but that's okay. But with
Not only was it not essential, but you would go to jail if you hadn't.
exactly right, which is crazy. But yeah, we weren't actually an essential service. Vape shops were an essential service. We sold vaporizers, so we were hoping that we would still be an essential service if we sold them, but no, we weren't.
But they've reopened now, so they're like, well, you have to smoke your weed out of something. So
Exactly right. So we basically now we could be open, but we'd obviously have to have all the rules in place, like the stickers on the floor where people can stand, the write up of how many people in the store, right?
yeah, I was wondering that. Where do you get that from? Because that can't be like a thing they had in stock. Like they can't have had like the COVID-19 stand 3 meters away, like ready to go. Like who do you order that from? The government?
There's probably some guy that's been sitting on that idea forever, man, and he's like, finally, my floor stickers are gonna pop off like crazy right now.
Yeah. No one said it was a good idea.
Glass. It's like everywhere in Chicago now.
Yeah, it's weird, and I said that so they haven't given me an outline yet for my shop, like exactly with the square footage, how many people I can have in it. And the other thing I don't like is these big shields in front of the point of sale. I don't know. In my shop, I'm constantly like walking around, and I'm still keeping the same amount of distance I'd be as the shield. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I guess if a guy sneezes at me, okay, I can see the shield, but other than that, I don't know. I don't know. I think it looks horrible. It makes my shop look ugly.
Like a
Right? Like I feel like a liquor store, like with all the glass around you.
yeah.
It feels way more hostile. I'm not gonna lie. Like it feels way more like it's a shady transaction now.
Exactly, right? And I tried to create a nice mellow, nice atmosphere.
Hold
And
on.
now it's
Hold on. Some of us miss that feeling, okay?
what
Jim
the,
likes when his head shops feel like the porn section of a blockbuster.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
pretty
It's
much,
gotta be
man.
dark, like beaded everywhere. It's like
Instead of the weird curtain, it's just the smell of incense. You're like, yep, it's a head shop. That's what I like about Honalee, where it's just like, nah, it just is a regular store.
Exactly,
all
right?
the windows painted with like watercolors. That's not a thing anymore.
Yeah. Yo, you should put the glass up and then spray paint parts of it. That'd be cool.
Yeah. There's so much, like there's so many designs with a head shop. And when we did ours, we were like, okay, the old, Bob Marley, lime green walls, everything, like it's all been done before, right? And nowadays, I always tell people we're past legalization and now we're on to normalization, right? It's a good way of putting it. And I felt like my shop was more of kind of what the normal should be. Like, Jim, you've seen my store, so we have like the new age gifts. We have some candy. We kind of tried to make an atmosphere where it's more normal, all these things together, right, in one store. And the feel of it is for, everyone from 18. I've had women come in. I had the one lady, she was like 80 years old looking into vaporizers and stuff. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, it's nuts, right? But It's the age we live in, and that's where I like with my store, we can accommodate. Like that lady was really comfortable. You know, she didn't feel like it was a shady sale or anything like that, right? Like she felt comfortable.
Yeah, well, Jim and I have talked about this before. It's like there's this weird, like, new kind of era of people where it's like it's nice to be like a cannabis enthusiast, but that sounds stupid. But like someone who smokes weed but isn't like a stoner, like isn't just someone who sits around all day and does nothing and watches like dumb like videos on YouTube. It's like, no, I can still do work and I can, go out and do comedy shows and I like go to the gym and whatever. You run a shop and you still just smoke weed because it's fine. It's like having a beer at night.
Exactly, pretty much, man.
So it's nice that, yeah, there's kind of a shop that reflects that. Like, you don't have to be a stoner to come in here. Like, you don't have to be a fucking pothead, man. Like, just come, have a smoke, like, look around, buy some papers, and go home.
Pretty much. Well, even in our shop, like, I put a guitar in there because I tell people, like, it's a bad sales technique to say, hey, you don't have to buy anything in here, but it is cool to have an atmosphere. Like, a guy came in, he played my BC Rich that I keep off onto the side. And I'm like, yeah, man, come in, play guitar, hang out. Like, that's more of the vibe I wanted. I wanted a hangout. I've been to a lot of head shops where it's like, okay, buy your bong, get out of there. Buddy, kind of like, what do you need? And that's it, right? Like, I don't know, people come in and I'll chat their ear off, man. Like, I can chat. So it's more of a comfort thing anyway, right?
That's what the thing became with those vape shops, right? From what I understand is like guys go and hang out. I don't know what my dad likes to go like hang out at the vape shop and try all the different things. But that it's that like hanging out aspect that feels like a little community, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's what you want. Like, there's a huge cannabis community in the city. Like, it's amazing, right? And now, obviously, we're adding to that with legalization. A lot of people that weren't in the community and now they are. Like, we have things like grow nights, things like that now that are popping off, and people can get information. It's pretty crazy, the amount of information that's out there and was already there. Just, no one was educating on it until now.
Yeah. It's funny. I love the growing aspect of it. That's the funniest thing I think I've heard since legalization is people being like, yeah, my uncle's just like growing a pot plant on his deck now. Like there's just so many like little stories like that I hear popping up. Do you guys do anything for that? Do you have any like grow stuff? Like, do you guys provide, probably not seed, but like any kind of like books or like anything to help grow?
Yeah, so we have a lot of the literature. Now, we were thinking of putting things like nutrients and tents and things like that, but you have places in the city like Hydrolite is pretty well known throughout the community for their wide selection of all that kind of stuff. It takes up a lot of real estate in your store as well to carry all those things, but I figured literature is the best thing. And being involved in the city and knowing what's going on, like seed swaps or grow nights, and I can steer people towards. Pardon?
Do you grow?
Do I grow? Not yet, man. I don't have time. Like everyone's like, oh, I'm doing all these plants and I got all these lights. I'm like, I got 3 kids, man. Like, what's daddy doing in the basement? Don't worry about it. They're tomatoes.
Yeah.
Hey, my dad did that, but before it was legal. So
I used to have a friend back in the day, and I used to go over and play at his house. And his dad would always smoke, and he had plants. We didn't know what they were at that time, but I used to come home from that friend's house, and my dad would always be like, "Oh, you smell kind of funky, right?" I didn't know no different. I'm a kid, right? But my dad, he was supposed to go over there and talk with my friend's dad and be like, look, when the kids are around, blah, 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 just kind of tone it down. Well, that night, my dad went over to talk to him, and obviously he came back home and he's like, Aaron's good to come over there. And I noticed right away, I was like, something wrong with dad, man. He's pretty relaxed tonight. And I was like, I know what happened now.
That's the best. Dude, I had a conversation with my mom, so I don't fucking, whatever, he won't care. My dad smoked weed till I was like 14, basically, but he always kind of like hid it from us a little bit, but he grew weed like right before my brother was born, basically. But we had like this little room in our house that he used to grow weed in. We thought it was just like a store. We thought it was just a storage room, but there was like it like vented to the outside, and there was like lights, and it had like a hidden wall to get into it. Like you couldn't just like open a door; you had to like was. And so
crazy.
yeah, we're like, oh, but yeah, he was a construction guy, so he just made it all himself in the basement. But I like had this conversation with my mom this year where I was like, yeah, I didn't know that like dad smoked weed. She's like, did you not smell it on him? I was like, yeah, but I didn't know what the fuck that was. Like I was like 10. Like I knew dad stunk when he got home from work, and I knew he stunk different when he got home from walks, and I knew that he stunk different when he smoked cigarettes. He stunk different when he drank coffee. Like that's what I knew.
I thought we just had a really chilled out dad. I just thought he was a really chill dude. I don't know.
Yeah, he was super nice to us all the time. He loved playing like sports outside with us and like wrestling and just like fucking around.
He's like, come on,
He's always in a
kid,
good mood.
let's hit up McDonald's on the way home.
Yeah, he loved surprise bags from the corner store. He loved that shit.
That's too funny. Well, when all the legalization happened, it was kind of funny because my parents, they don't smoke, but they know I smoke, everything like that. And with my epilepsy, I do use it for that as well. So, but it's just funny that the stories that came out, like my mom, I'm like, what? You guys had pot plants in front of the house and the cops showed up? Like, where did all these, where was I when all this happened, right? It was obviously a little before me, but I thought it was funny how she had gotten busted with having pot plants actually growing on the front side of their house. Like the neighbors called the cops and were like, I think they're growing pot out front. I was like,
That's out front. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know. They just threw them outside, wondering if they would grow, I guess, and then they did.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I didn't know about the epilepsy thing. So did you have like a prescription before legalization then?
So what happened was when I was like 18 and I had my first seizure, and right away they just put me onto medication, but they told my parents. They told
Sorry
my
to interrupt.
Sorry?
What's the sorry to interrupt, but is there like, I don't want to get too personal, but like, is there a story with that? Like, were you in high school? Were you at work? Or were you like, was that super freaky? Like, I can't imagine what your first seizure must have just been like.
So really, I don't really remember much other than waking up in the hospital, basically. Like I had been out, I guess they attributed to not eating very well at first. They're like, oh, he's an 18-year-old kid. He drank all weekend, blah, blah, blah. But I had I'd had a lot of head injuries and stuff too from BMX, skateboarding, motocross, things like that. So they never really were able to pinpoint exactly why I was having seizures. They just were able to pinpoint when like I was hungover and my body was drained, that's when it seemed to affect me. So right away they said, okay, we'll put you on this epilepsy medication. It's proven to work. We know it does. And my parents were like, hey, we got to look at different avenues. And that's where I was like, oh, maybe I could smoke weed out of all this, right? But my first seizure, I woke up, man, in the hospital, and my parents are over me. Like at first I said, what the fuck happened? Like I just woke up and I'm like, what the fuck happened? And my dad looks at the doctor and he's like, well, his verbal's good. I just kind of laughed, like, oh, that's my dad, right? Like, oh yeah, he's normal, he's good, right? But that's what happened, man. I had a seizure in my sleep, and luckily at the time my girlfriend had spent the night. So she woke up to me, she said, I guess, vomiting on the floor, and she's like, what's wrong with him? Like, I don't know, got my parents, and then I started grand mal seizuring. So not really any reason to why, but that's the story of the first one. Yeah, just in my sleep. And they say a lot of epilepsy, it's either the morning or in your sleep, right? It's something to do with your brain shutting on, turning on and turning off or something, right? Like it's crazy. It was definitely an altering thing at 18 years old to be told, well, you can't drive for a year. I don't know about drinking anymore, right? Things like that. And kind of changes you for sure, right?
That's weird. So did you say you were pretty good at being sober for the year of your 18th, like your 18th year?
Yeah, pretty much, man. Like I was pretty scared. Like they basically told me, oh, if you drink on this medication, you're going to seizure, right? I didn't want it to happen again. So I was like, you know what? I'll just not drink at all. And to be honest, I did have a few more seizures after that. But that was, well, they're trying to balance my medication, right? And figure out how much was enough where it would keep me from seizuring. So yeah, it was pretty intense for when you just hit 18 and you're like, yeah, I can party now. And it's like, no, you can't.
Jesus. That's great. And then so
weed.
Pardon?
But you can smoke weed.
Exactly, right? So
with
that, my parents were like, the doctor told them right away, they're like, well, there is some studies about marijuana. And my mom's like, drugs? And
that's wild. I don't want to be rude, but what year was that? Do you care?
I can't even remember now. I'm 33 now, so I was 18 then. So like, I don't know. It wasn't really, weed wasn't
2005-ish?
Yeah,
2005 graduated?
Yeah.
That's wild. So yeah, that's probably a pretty like new age doctor thing to say, to be like, maybe let your kid smoke some pot.
Well, he's a younger doctor too, and that's what my mom was saying. She's like, this young, handsome doctor, all about the marijuana for my child, right? And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. I probably shouldn't smoke weed. I do anyway, but whatever. I should just jam these pills down my throat for the next 30 years. That'll probably kill my insides.
That's wild. So have you transitioned off the medication now?
So what I did was I went 2 years with my medication, and then I said, you know what? I don't know if I need it anymore. I'm eating healthy. I'm happy. I'm working. Everything's going good in my life. I never suggest anyone just leaning themselves off medication, but I was worried that if I told my doctor, hey, look, I'm going to lean myself off my medication, I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to drive. Everything's going to change for me. And then I just started getting people to drive me around, and I went a good year with like not driving again. And I was like, I'm going to try to lean myself off and just keep smoking weed. I looked a lot into it myself. With epilepsy, there's not much info out there about it, which is kind of crazy considering how many people have it, right? The reasons for it, like they're not too clear on why. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So have you like noticed that smoking weed has reduced them, or have you like not had a seizure for a while, or is it still something that you deal with often?
I went over 10 years. I think it was close to 15 years without a seizure. I think it was around there. And then I had got stressed out again. The oil field, everything kind of shut down, everything that was going on in my life, having kids, everything like that. I ended up having another seizure out of nowhere, and I had to go back on medication. But during that time when I had that seizure, that was right before Honalee started. I couldn't work, right? Again, you lose your license for a year. I was like, what am I going to do now? Right. So I went seizureless for quite some time. Everything was normal. Everything was good. And then again, I got really stressed out. I was losing weight. Trying to get jobs, right? Trying to clean myself out to get a job. And basically, right, gave myself a seizure because I was draining myself, like hitting the sauna, doing all these things. And I think that's what it was that kind of threw me into another seizure, I guess, again in my sleep.
Damn, that's great. So is it pretty like mental health related? It seems like if you get yourself like stressed out and all that.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. And your sleep patterns. They always say that with the one thing they do know with epilepsy is your sleep patterns. Keep up your sleep, healthy amount of sleep, and don't miss your medication, right? Basically, it seems like if you do, I even feel off. Like if I've missed one, the next morning I'm like, oh no, I missed my pill or something happened and I just forgot to take it. I can't forget to take it anymore. I know that. I've learned that. The next day I'm like, oh, I feel off in the morning, right when I wake up, right? So it's right when my brain's kind of getting itself together. So it's pretty freaky, and especially now having kids, right? Like I worry, what if anything ever happened and my wife's not there, and my oldest is 8, my youngest is 4, so
Yeah, that's got to be a whole lot. So do you spend like, I imagine you'll spend a lot of time like sleeping on the road or anything, like you're pretty much home most of the time?
yeah, most of the time I'm home. If I'm not home, I'm
Nice.
at my shop now.
Yeah, that's fair. Does that ever run through your mind? Like, do you make like conscious decisions to like make sure people are around? Like, you're like, I don't know when this could happen. Like, I gotta kind of.
You know what? It used to be a problem, like to the point where I'm like, I would go somewhere, like say Japanese Village, and I'd get in there and I'd be like, okay, if I seizure, where's the exit? Where's the bathroom? Am I in the right seat in case I did? Like, it was to the point it was mentally messing with me. Like, and then I was at what point, right? I was like, I gotta stop waiting to seizure, basically, is what I was doing, right? When is it gonna happen? Where?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like at some point, it's like you got to worry about yourself, but you also got to like try and not let it consume your whole life. Like, at what point do you find a balance in that?
Exactly, and that's what it's been like. Even with having the shop, my business partner lives like right down the road. I also have an employee, right? So she's usually there as well. So I usually try to keep people around. I'm mindful to it, right? But obviously, running a small business as well, it's kind of all on me. So I can't have my employee there all the time. It's not feasible at the moment, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. But so you've noticed like weed has helped, and weed has been something that like you've just.
I attribute that last seizure to I had to quit smoking weed. Basically, that was the only thing that basically changed for me. Was I was like, hey, I can't smoke weed. I need this job, and I'll just quit smoking
Just
it.
like, was it to pass like a piss test to go work up north or something?
Yeah. To go work for somewhere I didn't want to be, man. And it's like, I don't know. I used to hate that about P tests, right? Is you have to quit smoking weed when really you're probably the hardest worker out there. You're not,
Yeah.
you're got your wits about you. And here I am trying to kill myself to get it out of my system, right? Like you have to sweat it out. I don't know how much cranberry juice I drank. They say it works. I don't know. I drank so much. I guess it must have, right? Like,
This is hilarious. My dad, like I said, my dad smoked weed till I was 14 years old. He also worked in the oil patch my whole life. He's a like union worker up
yeah.
north. So like I remember him like going on cleanses and he was so grumpy and like he got no sleep and like he was hacking darts like a fucking chimney and just like couldn't eat, like couldn't do anything, just sweating, watching hockey, like furious at the TV.
It's crazy because like I told my friend, I said, look, man, I quit smoking weed and I'm having a hard time eating. I'm having a hard time sleeping. I'm just like really irritable, this and that. He's like, man, it sounds like you're coming off a crack. Like, relax, man. It's just weed. And I'm like, no, it really, like, you can. Usually I smoke a little bit before I go to bed, and then it makes me tired. And, during the morning, I kind of use it as my little pick me up before I head out for the day to do everything right. Like, I don't know.
Well, I did we did a podcast like sober October this year. And so I had to quit weed. And for the first 10 days of October, I was the exact same way. Because usually I'll smoke weed. I like to say I use weed as like a enhancer. Like every time I have a meal, I'm like, oh, I'll just go take like a little hit, go like smoke a little out of the pipe. And then like the food tastes a little better. Like, oh, I'm going to bed. Like we'll get a little deeper sleep.
Yeah.
Like all that off of it. It's like, okay, well now food doesn't really taste as good. And like exercise is kind of boring. And like sleep is hard. You're kind of uncomfy. You can feel all your joints stiffening up.
Yeah.
And so it's just like these little things like keep on like kind of pecking at you for the first like 10 days and you're like sweaty. You're like, is it hot in here? Am I cold?
Yeah.
What's happening?
That's why it surprised me that it was so bad. Like I hadn't really quit smoking weed that much, right? Like I did one of those cleanses, like you had mentioned, like the 5-day cleanse. I'd done that before, and holy geez, man, talk about cleanse. Yeah, it cleansed me right out for a whole week straight. It was brutal.
Had a couple of bad BMs or what?
Oh, buddy. had a couple bad drives too, because you're sitting there like, oh, I just better make it home. I just hope I make it home. What's wrong, Daddy? Don't worry about it. Shut up.
Dude, and the last 10 steps before the toilet are the hardest too. We were like, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. And your body's like, you're almost there. You just get a tighter stride with every step. And then it comes down to like you just get the pants and it seems like it's happening in the if it took a second longer, you're like, would I shit myself?
It's so funny because we're all laughing because we've all been there.
Yeah, man.
Best posture you ever have in your entire life. Your shoulders are straight back. You are up there.
Pretty much the only time I sit up straight. Yeah.
Oh, gotta go.
And then the door closes and it's
Oh, well, and for me, I was like, I drank something to make me do this. Like, what am I doing? Like, how bad do I want this site job? Like, really?
Oh, God, yeah. Like, how badly do I want to leave my family for 3 weeks at a time? I'm drinking cranberry juice and sitting in a sauna so that my, like, black death comes out of me.
Pretty much, man. Pretty much. And, like, for me, I was born and raised in Fort McMurray. So it's like, if you're born and raised in Fort Mac, it's like, oh, so you're going to be a welder. It's like, what? I'm 6 years old. And he's like, my dad's like, no, try this welding torch. Like, you're going to want to be a welder.
But Drew, this is hilarious. Drew Bame had an interview with the Edmonton Journal, and in it, he was like, yeah, man, where I come from, it's like, you can either be a drug dealer or go work on the patch if you want to make money. Like, those are the only ways.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah, if you're not born into it and you want to make money in Alberta, sell drugs or work on the patch. I think it's the easiest way to do it.
Hey, man, I sell bongs now. That's what I do. I sell bongs.
Yeah, there's a bong illegal now. So
a lot of people, when you tell them, like, you know, my wife, her family, it's like, oh, so what's Aaron going to do? And it's like, he's going to open a bong shop. And they're all like, okay. And I'm just like, it works. Like, I know it does. My business partner has 2 already in Fort McMurray. And he's had those he's going close to 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So he knows they work. People buy expensive bongs. People buy papers daily. People buy everything, right? So it wasn't that hard to twist my arm when I'm like, I know this will work. And we just had legalization. Like, how can it not work? There's more people than ever now smoking weed. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How much did so obviously smart business decision, but how much did like the weed for your epilepsy like play into that decision where you were like, this is actually something that like I care about, like this is way better than just working my life away out on some fucking rig?
So what actually happened was I was in the hospital with my seizure, and I basically the night before said, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know, my world basically was flipped upside down, right? Like, I'm like, what do I do here? I have no job now. I can't drive. I can't do anything really. I got to take care of myself better than what I thought I was, right? I thought I was doing good. And then my business partner, I had approached him a while back saying, hey man, I think, you know, it'd be cool to do a really clean shop. I kind of gave him the idea. And then when that happened to me, he approached me and said, look, man, like, what do you got to lose right now? Do you have a nest egg? Would your family help you? Like, do you want to do a shop? And I said, what do I got to lose, man? Like, I'm sitting here in a hospital bed. Like, let's do it. I felt like I don't want to go back to site. I can't stay in a camp if I can seizure at night, right? By myself in a camp room. It was just like, no, I don't want to put myself in that position. And I knew that he had already done it. He'd done it twice already where he started a shop and they're successful. So how can you go wrong with putting a shop on White Ave, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And did you, so this was recent, right? So you already had kids at the time as well? Like,
yeah, like, so Honalee basically was what, a year ago, I think we opened up, and it was about 6 months before that to a year when I had my seizure. So it was kind of in the works during that whole time.
dang. So yeah, you're in the hospital basically looking at like your whole family being like, well, fuck, what do I do to make sure this is all safe?
Well, it's crazy because so many people come to visit you and they're like, so what are you going to do now? It's like, really? You're going to say that to me? Like, what am I going to do now? I've been thinking about that actually for the past 3 days stuck in the hospital. Thanks.
Yeah, well, I'm about to start a GoFundMe because everyone keeps asking me that and I have no answers. So
Pretty much, right? I'm like, I really don't know what I'm going to do, but thanks for pointing out that I don't know what I'm going to do. I appreciate that. But it was.
Well, it looks. I hope it looks like it turns out that it worked out in your favor.
You know what? I feel like this coming out of nowhere, this pandemic or whatever they say we're going through right now, it couldn't have been a worse timing for a guy who just opened a small business, that's for sure, right?
Yeah.
I had done a lot of work before all this, like for the shop, like getting myself out there and people knowing who I am, Aaron Up and Smoke, the owner of Honalee. Like I was at comedy shows, I was at events, I was anywhere I could possibly be to let people know that I'm there. And I feel like I'm the type of person, again, like I say, I can chat, right? I don't know, a very approachable person. So I use that to my advantage to get out in the city and be like, hey guys, come check out my shop. This is what I'm all about, right? It's so much fun to me to do what I'm doing, right? So building all that up before this happened was actually the best move I ever did. I hustled hard. I was out late. I was everywhere. And I did that because I wanted to build something quicker than you would just sitting on White Ave and letting your store get foot traffic. I was like, no, I want to be out there and meet the people that want to come to my store. And when I did that, this happened and everyone's been reaching out to me. How can we help? What can we do to help you? Are you set up for online sales? So with this happening, it really amazed me because the first day I was like, there goes the shop. There goes everything I just did for almost a year, like gone. And then everyone started messaging me and being like, any way we can help, whatever we need to do. If you end up doing curbside, let us know. So this didn't really end up that bad of a thing for us because it pushed me to get my website done, right? To do my online sales, which I had put off because I was focusing all my energy on everything else. So this kind of pushed me now to get your website going because that's where a lot of my sales are going to come from for a little while, it sounds like.
Nice. Is that fired up? Are you guys ready to go online?
So that has been something in itself. Again, I'm doing everything myself, right? So trying to build a Shopify site myself and learning how to take my inventory from my POS and transfer it into what I know now is a CSV file and put it over. And I'm learning all this as I go, right? So it's been quite the process. But there was things that like I had to reset up my inventory in my system, right? I didn't know when I was building my system that everything had to be a certain way in order to start an online shop. So it's been fun. I'm not up and running yet, but the next few weeks, that's my main focus is my website.
Oh yeah, well we'll keep following. Obviously, we got you on Instagram and all that, so we'll keep up to date. And my bongs are all getting dirty and stuff because I've been using the shit out of them during quarantine. So
trust me, you should see the messages I get. They're just like, when are you gonna open again? I broke another bong. I broke another this. I'm like, my favorite kind of customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, what do you think? Good for an episode? Is there anything else you want to talk about? Do you want to plug your story? You want to give us the lowdown on where people can find you?
So what I'll say at the end is I wanted to let you guys know too. I didn't say it off the hop that I appreciate this opportunity to be on the show. I've been talking with Jim for a while to try and get on here because again, an outlet to let people know about my store and the feel of my store and a little bit of how the store came about. I felt like that was something too that I need to tell people. So this is another outlet for me to do that. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, no worries. Thanks.
We've been trying to set this up for what feels like months now.
Well, like I said, I don't know if you were a UFC fan or not, but like I said in that message, I was like, it feels like Tony Ferguson and Khabib, man. We've scheduled this about 10 times now.
Yeah, I caught that one.
Yeah, for sure. No, like I say, you guys know where the shop is, 10151 82nd Ave, right next to Blush Lane.
Oh yeah, and you guys are open currently, right?
So what we're doing right now is by appointment only. So you can reach out on Instagram, our Facebook page, and we're trying to accommodate certain days I'll come in. Right now it seems like Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays have been where I can kind of get the most people to kind of book an appointment. I like it better right now with me having a family. I need to kind of have people in sections, right? So I have 2 people come in and then they can leave. I can clean up. And then I can have another 2 in. It's just a lot easier. And I think for people, it's nicer to kind of have the place to yourself.
Yeah.
So right now, with everyone kind of not knowing how to go about things, I would rather them feel comfortable in the aspect of, hey, you have the shop to yourself. And with building the website, I can only accommodate that for like 2-3 days a week where I can line stuff up. So if anyone wants to buy anything, Instagram, Facebook, our website, just let us know. We do have a Wix page. And you can just kind of sign up on there for a subscription. And then we're letting people know through there as well, kind of what we have going on.
Sweet. Do you just want to one more time give us the Instagram page, the website, Facebook, wherever we can find you?
Okay, so it is honalee.yeg, and that's at .com. And then we have at honalee.yeg would be our Instagram tag. And then mine is Aaron Up and Smoke for Instagram. And then we just got our Honalee YEG Facebook page.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on. Wicked. Jim, you got anything you want to say before we go?
Not really. I feel like people should go back in the archives of Scrambled YEGs and check out some of our other episodes. Lots of content in isolation. And give the Valley City a listen on any of your major streaming platforms. I get a report that tells me how many people have listened, and it's one of the most depressing, 30 seconds of my week. Like, 3 people listen this week. That's fucking right.
Man, everyone starts somewhere, dude. Everyone starts somewhere.
So move those numbers up because I'm watching.
All right. Well, and you know what? We'll do it. Shout outs for our 3 listeners. Also, if you enjoyed this, go watch. My roommate has a podcast now called Bradderday Night Live. You can follow him on Instagram at I Hate Brad. Who else do we like? We like the dudes from the Long and Hard podcast.
Yeah,
you guys can go check out Long and Hard podcast.
There's Cannabis
Dead
101.
Podcast. Sorry?
Cannabis 101 podcast. I think they're new to the game as well. I saw them. They added me on Instagram.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
Is that Edmonton weed one? Is it the weed one?
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah. Sweet. Few shout out. Oh, this week was Drew Bain from Toronto. All right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. That's my website, comedyaf.com. The rest of your lives. Bye.
Bye.
All right, boys. Peace.
All right.